Okay, what is the Mamdani Act? GOP bill would ban socialists and Marxists from the United States. A House Republican is introducing a new immigration bill that would make non-citizens who advocate for or are affiliated with socialist, communist, Marxist, or Islamic fundamentalist movements inadmissible, deportable, denaturalizable, and ineligible for naturalization. Texas Republican Representative Chip Roy has dubbed his bill the Mamdani Act after New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, a Democratic socialist. The bill creates new deportation grounds for non-citizens already living in the United States. Newsweek reached out to Mamdani's office via email on Monday for comment. Under the Mamdani Act deportation provisions, a non-citizen already in the United States could be removed if they engage in advocacy for socialism, communism, Marxism, or Islamic fundamentalism, distribute or publish material promoting those ideologies, or hold membership in affiliated organizations at any point after admission. Jesus Christ. Crucially, the bill would strip the courts the ability to review any determination made under its provisions, meaning deportation, denaturalization, or inadmissibility decisions would be final with no avenue for legal challenge. Roy told Breitbart News, "Why do we continue to import people who hate us, not just for the last 6 years, but for the last 60 years, our immigration system has been cynically used to disadvantage American workers' competitiveness in favor of mass importing the third world. This has not just led to higher crime and lower wages, but also the promulgation of hostile ideologies fundamentally opposed to American values. By targeting the Red-Green Alliance, this legislation deploys new tools to fight back against the Marxist and Islamist advance that has devastated Europe and has now arrived on our doorstep, especially in my home state of Texas." Oh my God. All the Islamists invading Texas? The bill specifically cites Mamdani, arguing that his very presence and those who champion Marxist ideologies demonstrates how the immigration system enables the mass importation of Marxists and Islamists. Oh, okay. This is my bad for not following this. Do you know... Where's Mootnet? Do you know how many immigrants Abbott has bussed up to blue states? I thought that I thought he did it a few times as like a meme or whatever. Like I don't know, maybe a few hundred or like 1,000 or whatever. It's like over 100,000 people. As of August 2024, Texas Governor Greg Abbott's office reported that over 119,000 migrants have been voluntarily transported by bus from Texas to self-declared sanctuary city since April of 2022. 119,000. Holy shit. And that was 2 years ago, as of 2 years ago. God damn. Theo Chino, First National Secretary of the Social Democrats of America, told Newsweek that he faxed a letter directly to Roy's congressional office on Monday, sarcastically noting that Roy had forgot to include Social Democrats and liberals in the Mamdani Act. There's no way that actual Justice Warrior is going to defend this, that Sean is going to defend this. There's no way. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is, are Republicans... Oh, wait, no. First one is, should Dems double down on Zohran's viral tax the rich narrative? Oh. And then 3, Trump labels Iran war opponents traitors. Oh, yeah, I think we listened to him talk about that. Okay. Is he going to take the opposite position on any of these things? All right.
Joining me, we've got Sean Fitzgerald, a.k.a. Actual Justice Warrior, and Stephen Bonnell, a.k.a. Destiny. Guys, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to start by talking about Zohran Mamdani, who has had a bit of a viral moment. He does seem to have a tendency to do that. He's pretty gifted when it comes to going viral. The mayor of New York City, of course, who's kind of a rising star in Democratic politics, he just announced a new tax targeted on homes owned by people that don't actually live in New York City, filming it outside of a promotional video outside of one of those homes. I'm going to roll that for you guys now, and then we'll discuss. Take a look.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city, like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million.
So a couple thoughts on this. One is that it's clearly brilliant marketing and political strategy. I think class warfare sells, especially when people are struggling to get by. We've got gas prices high because of the Iran situation and everything else. But at the same time, this is just miles away from where Brian Thompson was gunned down, right, by Luigi Mangione, allegedly, though it looks pretty certain that he did in fact do that. We've got this kind of sentiment, and yet you've got the mayor standing outside Ken Griffin's home and filming him, pointing at his home and identifying him and vilifying him, when last time I checked, all he's done is donate hundreds of millions to hospitals in New York City, pay untold millions in taxes to New York City, and not break any laws. I don't know, Stephen, are you on board with the kind of rise of the class warfare, Zohran Mamdaniism in the Democratic Party?
I mean, I'm generally anti-populist in almost all forms of messaging. I think it's a one-way ticket to brain rot, and I think too much of the right and too much of at least the very loud left is kind of on board with this populist stuff. But I will say that in terms of like channeling populist rhetoric into doing some kind of effective policy, I think that that the increased taxes or trying to de-incentivize people being kind of like idle property renters, I think is probably a good thing. I don't know how valuable it is to a city to have somebody just occupying units that's not actually living there. I think it'd probably be better for it to go to somebody who's actually living there. So a little bit of downward pressure on rents, maybe incentivizing people who buy expensive stuff like that to actually stay in the city. You mentioned paying taxes or whatever. I don't even know if this guy's main domicile is New York City. He's there for over 180 days a year or whatever. So I'm generally in favor of maybe not the rhetoric, but this particular policy I think is a fine one.
Yeah, he has businesses though in New York City, and I'm sure he pays a boatload in property tax on that house, even if he doesn't.
But I mean,
live there
anybody that
around.
owns it would pay property taxes. You can have businesses in a city without having your principal residence there. So
Of course, it's just I'm not sure what he did to get singled out by name and shamed like this by Zoran.
well, he owns
I
a
think he
property
was-
there that he doesn't live in, right?
I don't know.
I think he was
I'd be
singled
pretty
out.
uncomfortable there with somebody coming to my house for any sort of like political gesture. Same with if a Republican was promoting like border security and went and filmed that. And honestly, I bet one of them would do this. Filmed outside Nancy Pelosi's house and was like, "Look, she's got a wall. We need a wall." To me, it crosses a little bit of a line. But Sean, I'll bring you in here. Your thoughts?
Well, I think like first of all, you pay tax when you buy the property. You pay we have a transaction tax on real estate. It's higher for high end real estate. You pay tax on the income that you earn in New York State, even if you don't live in the state. We're one of the few states in the union that will actually hunt you down anywhere you are for like days that you do business in the state of New York. But it's also like, first of all, it's shocking that he didn't do this at Trump Tower, like the most obvious choice. He just picked a random, like non-politically connected or non-politically, like a non-politician billionaire in order to do this. But yeah, I mean, look, it's a victory for Mamdani because, you know, he promised a lot of tax increases that are not within the purview of New York State. Governor Kathy Hochul had rejected him, and she ended up giving him this because she's up for re-election. She doesn't want to raise income taxes heading into that, but obviously that populist sentiment is trying to produce some kind of an increase. But it's also just, in my opinion, like gross to see anybody celebrating tax day. Like, I don't know. I know Steven obviously pays more in taxes than I do, but like I pay all my taxes in one shot, and I had to do that last week. So seeing this like smarmy guy smile into the camera about taking people's money, not a great feeling as a New York City resident, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Well, and I think you can count on both the fact that Zoran is like a super popular figure with progressives and the Democratic base, and the mainstream media is kind of heralding him and giving him all this gloss. You've got mainstream Democrats teaming up with him, like Obama just did an event with him that seemed harmless enough. But then you can count, of course, because he is Muslim, because he is a socialist or arguably like a Marxist communist, you can count on the conservative media engine always being trained on him. I mean, I don't know, Stephen, I feel like if you want Democrats to win outside of New York City, where that was never really an issue, Zoran's brand of politics seems kind of radioactive.
Yeah, I mean, Zoran is not the most popular Democrat in the country for a reason. I mean, he's the mayor of New York City. It's going to be a bluer area. The policies that he's advocating for in New York City aren't going to work in more moderate areas in the country. But I mean, Zoran recognizes that. He said as much. So yeah, I don't know why Zoran would try to govern New York City in a way that would comport with the broad approval of Democrats across the country. He's the mayor of a single city.
But it's more so that I think his brand of like DSA style Democratic politics is becoming a major, if not like the major, where the motion is at in the Democratic and progressive base.
With the progressives, yeah, because they're
AOC.
excited for him, but then also for the Republicans, because that's what the Republicans want to label the Democratic Party as. But I mean, the Republicans have been calling Democrats socialists for the past 3 decades. So, I mean, what else is new? I don't think that Zoran should start adopting bad policy because the conservatives are going to obsess over him and market and create laws to try to ban him and people like him from the country. I think that would be a mistake.
Well, we'll come to that. And some of the response to him is getting insane. Sean, your thoughts?
I mean, he's adopted bad policy because he's a member of the DSA. Like that's actually his whole entire platform. But yeah, the Democrats copying him. I mean, look, there is some stuff of value there. Like the fact is he knows how to use the internet. He knows how to viral market himself. So even something that I find creepy and weird like this, where the guy zooms in on his face and he does all that stuff, it's going to appeal to some people. And, you know, like it or not, populist sentiment is rising in the United States of America. I think it's like completely ridiculous in many regards. But pointing pointing to big building and saying this is $238 million. And the implication that's not said, because it's not true in this particular video, is that this guy isn't paying any taxes in New York City and New York State. Like, that is going to be appealing to somebody. So a lot of Democrats are going to copy that kind of messaging, but hopefully they don't shift more in his policy direction. And I know Republicans are hoping that they could essentially make Mamdani like AOC and then make him synonymous with the Democratic Party to damage them, because AOC ended up stepping on like her own, you know, she ended up stepping on herself a couple too many times. But yeah, it is definitely something that is trending in the Democratic Party, and the more attention that he gets, people are starved for attention in American politics, the more he'll be replicated. Now, whether that's superficially or on a policy level, I mean, that remains to be seen. Hopefully it's just superficially, because I don't want Democrats to be worse Democrats, because, you know, 50-50 country, they'll likely be the next administration.
Yeah, well,
also, as a quick thing, it's not 50-50 country. It's the fact that almost every single decision Trump has made has pulled this country to the brink, and all of his policies and decisions he makes are insanely unpopular. In order to try to pretend that it's just 50-50 and that's why Dems are going to win next time is a hilarious reframing of the current state of affairs, number one. And number two,
I know you like to do Trump.
I'm not doing Trump bad. You're the one
I know
that said
you like to
50-50.
do Trump bad, but my point is that the country is actually split in terms of presidential elections. We only have a few swing states, and we're talking about tens of thousands of votes. It's not me talking about Trump's popularity or lack thereof at this moment in time. Like, just relax, calm down.
I'm super relaxed, but I mean, Republicans have played into this like populist rhetoric as well. I don't hear anywhere near the same amount of complaints about all the tariffs that Trump did, which are way worse than this Mamdani target
I think
attacks.
they're bad policy.
Sure, that's fine, but none of the other Republicans are saying that, so it's kind of hard for them to think in an honest environment for them to kick up a whole bunch of dust about what Mamdani is doing. Also, it's not like this is just a random dude that Mamdani is pointing to. This is like the single most expensive piece of like personal property, I think, in the entire country. And I don't think the guy's even principally resident in New York City. I'm pretty sure his principal residence is down here in Miami. So it's not like he just randomly chose a place to go after. Like, I think it's a perfect, or at the very least, a really good use case scenario for like, this is the type of tax I want to implement. This is the type of property that it would target. And this is the kind of person that is arguably abusing this ability to buy really expensive property, remove it from the market from everybody else, and then not even be principally residents in New York City, contributing like somebody else might be if they actually live there.
I mean, you say remove it from the market from everybody else. It's not like this guy, if he were to sell this property, that, you know, Johnny down the street is going to be renting that penthouse. Like, this is a luxury property. And yeah, like, I didn't know if this was the most expensive piece of personal property in the entire country or in the city of New York. I didn't know that prior to that, so maybe that is the reason why he chose it. I was actually just saying I thought it was restraint on his part to not do this at Trump's tower, because Trump lives in Florida now. Technically, that's his principal residence.
He's trying to stay on Trump's good side a little bit, which is a very awkward dynamic. Though I guess I respect the hustle there from Zoran to try to work with Trump, but it's a very delicate balancing game there.
Yeah.
One I don't think will last.
There's also, just to clear up a bit of bad econ, like luxury units that are occupied by people put downward pressure on all rents. It's not like just removing people from luxury units and then having people step into those units isn't going to affect the rest of the rent prices. Like,
I mean, it will barely. You're talking about a couple units here, Stephen, that will apply to this tax.
I agree. I don't think, but I've always been critical of these types of things. They try to do it in Vancouver and Toronto as well. Like, generally, there aren't very many vacant units that are sitting, that are just occupied by idle tenants or whatever. But I mean, like, insofar as like a wealthy tax, like, better this than like a wealth tax or some other like ridiculous thing.
Sure, but this is not the root. That's what we mean when we say it's like populist demagoguery. It's not unlike the Republican nationalist economics in that it's scapegoating and rooted in bad economics, but then also it's like not the core problem. The core problem with the New York City rental market is not a few luxury
lack of supply.
I somewhat agree with you there, but it's not bad. At least it's not the type of policy that is like largely destructive or corrosive. Like, on the aggregate, this is a good policy. I don't think you want very many idle landlords or idle tenants in your city. I think it's a decent policy. And it's not the type of like all holistic destructive econ policy like we see Republicans that love to engage in that for who knows what reason.
So two things. One, I don't disagree with you. Like, the rage against like quote unquote luxury units is ridiculous. Like, you build more luxury units, people end up moving out of your mid-tier units, and then like everybody would move up, and that increase in supply would put downward pressure on rent. The problem I have with this, other than the tax itself, is the fact that anytime you introduce any kind of new tax, like, this is just phase one. Like, eventually it will be broadened out to other people that own additional properties. Like, right now, it's if you own an additional property that you don't live in and that property is valued over $5 million. Well, we just saw the proposed estate tax that Mamdani wants to implement, and he wants to lower the threshold from $7.1 million all the way down to $750,000. Now, if you bought a property in 1999 in the area of New York City that I'm in, you probably spent $150,000 to $200,000. That property's worth over $1 million. And unlike in other places where taxes are marginal, the estate tax in New York has a cliff. Now, of course, maybe there's a property portion exemption. That's not uncommon in order to protect homes or whatnot. But my point is, taxes that are new tend to be broadened out. Like, you always target an unpopular group whenever you're doing it. In this particular case, it's the rich. But eventually, that's going to spread to other people that own multiple properties.
Yeah,
and
so-
if you're trying to incentivize building more apartments and you're going to tax unoccupied dwellings that are owned by people who aren't living there, then eventually that will turn into yet another terrible housing policy in New York State, which is an undefeated run for the last 10 years.
I just think that the problem in New York City is not lack of tax revenue funded by the wealthy, right? They already pay vast amounts, hugely disproportionate amounts of the income taxes, property taxes, and even this tax, he says it will raise $500 million. I highly doubt that. I think people will probably, it will probably raise significantly less revenue than expected, and that's not going to get him anywhere close to funding all the programs that he wants to fund or closing the multi-billion-dollar gap. I just worry it's part of this really rancid class warfare sentiment, tax the rich sentiment that's also divorced from empirical reality, or the fact that we already have a wildly progressive federal tax system that I do think is going to become the kind of forefront. You look at Bernie 2016 and how he had such a different message than Hillary Clinton, but now the Democratic message on economics is much closer to where he started, and I think it's going to keep moving that way. But I don't know, it just seems impervious to factual reality. I bet you the average Zoran supporter, if you ask them to guess what percentage of taxes are paid by the wealthy, or what's the tax rate on the wealthy, or you see Elizabeth Warren and her ilk always posting these claims about people paying $0 in taxes that are really very misleading and not true. I don't know, Stephen, I find this curious because whenever we talk about Zoran, you seem kind of, you don't always support, you might distance yourself from some things, but you seem not particularly concerned. But what's interesting about that to me is that you speak out so vociferously against Hassan Piker and the Hassan Piker flank of American politics, and I agree with almost everything you say about that. But what is the meaningful political difference between Zoran Mamdani and Hassan Piker, other than Hassan saying edgier stuff?
The biggest difference, so Hassan doesn't just say edgy stuff. Hassan occupies an abhorrent ideology for several reasons, which we can talk about for hours. If you'd love to talk about Hassan, we do this all day. But the nice thing about Zoran Mamdani is Mamdani acknowledges that there are different types of Democrats that are appropriate in different sections of the United States. He said that explicitly alongside AOC. This is a good statement to make, that Zoran can govern New York City as a very blue city because it is a very blue city and he's the blue mayor elected of that blue city. But that doesn't mean that we have to demand the same thing as a senator from, Pennsylvania, or as a mayor in another city across the country, or whatever else. So I think acknowledging that difference is good, number one. Number two, I think it's good that as much as I don't like the slopulism stuff, as much as I don't like further left economic policies, it seems relatively narrow in scope. I don't think I would ever say this tax that might be good is bad because it could expand to a bad thing in the future. That just seems like a slippery slope excuse to literally not do anything ever. So, I think that taxing idle tenants, I think is good. I think that you want those units to be used. You want it so that if you have apartments available in your city, that you actually have people living in them, because that's kind of what they're there for. And the idea that it's going to disincentivize, builders in the future, they don't need incentives to build. You just have to zone for it and they'll build. So all in all, I think he's channeling the populism in a relatively good way. If you were to start doing some kind of crazy, financial transaction taxes or wealth taxes or whatever else, then I'd be like, oh, this is not good. I wouldn't support this. But for this particular policy, I think it's fine. It's a good one. I would say that this is a good tax that I would support from any other politician.
So I get the political concessions and kind of pragmatic nature that Zoran has decided to work within the Democratic Party framing and apparatus. But ideologically, he's almost in perfect overlap with Hassan. Back to his tweeting.
If he was in perfect overlap with Hassan,
days,
then he would be talking way more about Israel-Palestine and trying to excise every Jew from Brooklyn, and he would be trying to
arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. And
he said that while he was trying, but
but
realistically, this is never going to come up as a thing, right? He distanced himself from that globalize the intifada statement. I think he's talked more about that from the river to the sea thing. For the most part, it seems like he's distanced himself from the more radical rhetoric. He disavowed Hassan, directly. So I think that
he disavowed Hassan
when he was on the campaign
trail. He disavowed
the
statements.
The statements.
He said he did, on the debate stage, actually. But
just the America deserved 9/11 statement. Is that what you're talking about?
They brought up a couple of them,
Okay.
but that was among them. And maybe he was Andrew Cuomo, who brought it up on the stage. But setting aside Cenk's nephew for just a second, this also doesn't address the budget deficit in the city of New York. Like, Mamdani wants to raise spending by $14 billion over 2 years, and this is a state tax that will generate $500 million in state revenue, and then some of that will be allocated to New York City, and this just doesn't, like, the math doesn't math on this situation. Like, he's going to, like, the fact that he continuously wants to raise spending on all these programs, and this doesn't even get into his new programs, it's going to hurt the city. Like, so it's not like, oh, he's doing good policy. No, he's doing bad policy. Like, this is not good for the financial health of New York.
I mean, we'll
the
see, but I mean,
question
like, he's cut the deficit so far from 12 billion last year, I think, to 6.7 billion or whatever this year. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I doubt this is the only program that he wants to do. Like, he's doing this one rent tax, and then that's it for the rest of the year. Nothing else is going to come from his
he projected a $12 billion deficit, and then he came out and said that it was $5.3 billion based on savings that his people found. Like, he didn't actually cut anything. He's raising spending. The budget was $117 billion under the last year of Eric Adams. It's going up to $122 billion, and then it's going up to $127 billion in his projection by 2027, and that's the $14 billion in additional spending. Now, to me, like, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. If you're gonna raise spending by $14 billion and you find yourself in a $5.3 billion hole, then you could balance the budget by just raising spending by like $9 billion, which is still too much, still the most expensive in any city in the country, but it's the largest city, more expensive than 47 state budgets, including the entire state of Florida. Like, this guy's not solving or addressing those problems. He's pretending like this tax will produce enough money in order to solve the issue,
So Sean,
but it's not.
This is what I appreciate. This is why I appreciate your like commentary on Zoran. Is it's actually like rooted in the facts and reality. But when I look at the Republican discourse about Zoran Mamdani, what I see is like these members of Congress. You've got like Tommy Tuberville, the Alabama senator, like painting him as if it's like the 9/11 hijackers have taken control of New York City. You've got these people, a Republican member Andy Ogles calling him Little Muhammad, and these people simultaneously arguing he's woke and like far left on social issues, which is actually kind of true, and that he's like a secret jihadist Islamist. Why have the Republicans been so, like, broadly speaking, mostly about the politicians here, like incapable of critiquing Zoran substantively without just like, I don't like the word Islamophobia, but I don't know what else to call some of this, just like bigotry.
I mean, I guess it's like a shortcut for them to be like, he's a foreigner, he's bad. And again, it's not all unearned. I mean,
well, he is an American, a naturalized citizen, which will be important.
Well, I mean, he quite literally is a foreigner, though. He got naturalized in 2018. So I'm saying it's a shorthand for that. Like, that's what they're trying to say. But yeah, I mean, he doesn't help himself in this regard. I mean, a counter protest to him happened outside of the mayor's mansion, and two Islamic extremists threw a homemade explosive device that thankfully didn't detonate, and his first post about it named the guy that was protesting him. Now, I'm not a fan of Jake Lang, but like bringing a roast pig to the mayor's mansion when he's not home is kind of orders of magnitude significantly less bad than trying to murder somebody who brought a roast pig to the mayor's mansion for insensitive protest. So like he constantly ends up getting into this because like he is soft on the issue of Islamic extremism.
Well, hold on, wait. I just want to be clear, right? We're saying that he's soft on the issue because of the order of his tweets, even though he condemned the person that threw the explosive device.
He never came. First of all, in his original tweet, and if you have it, you should pull it up. It implies that Jake Lang was responsible for the explosive device. So then days later, he's like, oh yeah, like this kind of extremism, never names Islamic extremism. Weird how he can't seem to be able to do that. So yeah, I think he's soft on this issue.
But you don't think he is a like radical Islamist, Sharia law Muslim, the way they talk about it, do you?
No, I don't think he's going to implement Sharia law in New York City, no.
Well, so they're literally introducing bills as if he is, or talking about him as if he is, and I do find that frustrating. Stephen, do you have thoughts on this piece about the
Wait,
the
hold on.
rhetoric
So his tweet on March 9th was, Emir Balat and Ibrahim Qayyumi have been charged with committing
the second tweet.
Heinous act of terrorism and proclaiming their allegiance to ISIS. They should be held fully accountable for their actions. We will continue to keep New Yorkers safe. We will not tolerate terrorism or violence in our city.
That does kind of call it out there, Sean.
That's days later after his original tweet, which is still up, where he names Jake Lang first and white supremacy, which I believe this attack happened on the 7th.
But it sounds like he did this right after the people were charged. So this was 2 days later. So it's because of the order of his tweets that he's soft on Islamic.
First of all, day of, and we knew from the moment that this happened, we saw the guy screaming out Allahu Akbar as he threw the bomb, hilariously over a left-wing activist that was saying that we should tolerate these people.
I did see that clip of that guy.
One of the most iconic symbolic images of all time.
Just because somebody says Allahu Akbar doesn't necessarily mean they are allegiant to ISIS, or doesn't necessarily mean that they're part of some terrorist group.
They could be Star Wars fans and they don't know the line. Yeah, that's true.
Or it could be a person who's insane, or it could be. I know that you guys like to see Donald Trump tweeting insane stuff every 2 hours, so maybe that's like the type of leadership
that you're used to. It doesn't necessarily mean that.
But the reality is
that
the original statement that you said that he's soft on Islamic terrorism or extremism, he won't call out. That was just a complete bold-faced lie.
Pull up the original statement. It's not a lie. Pull up the original statement.
I just read his tweet
if an Islamic extremist throws a bomb and you criticize the people he threw the bomb at, then that tells me something about you.
What was he critical of Lang for? What was his tweet against Lang?
It's his first tweet. The one, you have his Twitter up right now. So you're doing this game where you're not pulling it up. You could just pull it up. Just search Jake Lang in his account.
What he said was yesterday, white supremacist Jake Lang organized a protest outside Gracie Mansion rooted in bigotry and racism. Such hate has no place in New York City. It is an affront to our city's values and the unity that defines who we are. What followed was even more disturbing. Violence at a protest is never acceptable. The attempt to use an explosive device and hurt others is not only criminal, it is reprehensible and the antithesis of who we are. I want to thank the brave men and women
of
the
NYPD. Thanks to the police.
Yeah. Well, hang on.
So it's because he didn't call out right there that it was Islamic extremism.
He called out the guy that they threw the bomb at, and again, that implies to the reader, and many people in the media thought it was part of Jake Lang's group that were doing the violence.
So they should have been,
and that's intentional.
They should have been clear about who was responsible for the violence. God. But like, I'm not sure there's anything wrong with the actual things he said in that statement.
No, it's endless.
When they announced a sting operation, when they announced a sting operation,
guys, don't talk over each other. Sean,
when they announced a sting operation against the that for the person who allegedly was trying to firebomb the property of that Islamic woman's place in New Jersey, he called out a Jewish extremist instantly, moment that it happened. First tweet, you could search the word Jewish into his thing. So he's capable of doing it. He's capable of identifying ideologies when it's convenient. I just point out the obvious, which he won't identify an Islamic ideology until after he's pressured, and then he'll mention ISIS, but not an Islamic extremist, which we knew from the jump when he threw the bomb.
2 days later? Why would he say this 2 days later then, if he's so committed to not mentioning?
Because there was a giant reaction to it.
Oh my God, there's always an excuse or an explanation for why. None of this story makes sense. Do you think it might just be more likely that they didn't know 100% what the affiliation or the facts were, like the day of?
They didn't know the affiliation of the guy who said Allahu Akbar.
I know that it's really hard. I know it's really hard for the Trump guys to understand this, but not everybody does investigations based off of YouTube videos. That's why we're looking at Charlie Kirk's assassin potentially not even being convicted in his case because of how much the Patel FBI has fumbled this, because of their inability to shut the fuck up about anything and to constantly tweet every single thing that they see come across their social media feed. Maybe, Sean, it's good when a leader actually waits a day or two. He knew who the guy having the protest was. Do you disagree with anything he said about the protester? And he condemned the violence at the event, and then 2 days later, once the DOJ had charged, 2 days later, when the DOJ charged it, he said that people who are pledge allegiance to ISIS is unacceptable. Like, you're putting this insane standard on a guy. Well, you guys have been...
It's not an insane standard. It's not an insane standard.
My God.
It's not an insane standard. If somebody brings a pig to a house and another person throws a bomb at them, I think it would be pretty nice if you called out the ideology of the people who threw the bomb rather than the guy who brought the pig with his 10 people for the protest.
What do you mean brought the pig? Why did he bring the pig?
Deliberately Jake Lang.
Why did he bring the pig? Why are you just saying bring a pig?
It's like an anti-Muslim
because he's Muslim. It was an anti-Muslim protest.
So he's not just bringing a pig. He's trying to do like a racist Islamophobic attack against him, which is fine. It's America. You can do that.
First of all, no. An attack is throwing a bomb. A pig is
a protest or whatever, right?
A pig is rude. Like he was not attacking anyone.
A pig is rude. Okay.
All right.
You could call it a bigoted, whatever. That's fine. But again, that is considered protected speech.
Sure, of course. And obviously the bomb is the much bigger issue. But I'm not sure that. Okay, people can decide for themselves.
It is protected speech. Like when the Atlantic published an article about Kash Patel drinking all the time too, right? We'd agree that's protected speech, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we could. I almost considered doing that for a topic, but I want to take time to read the full lawsuit, and then I'm probably going to talk about it later. But yeah.
Complaint, it's his initial complaint, not the lawsuit, right? Because he's trying to sue for defamation.
Right. His initial complaint, yeah, that he filed.
Yeah. Good luck Kash Patel with Discovery.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Just
If
to
I
be
was
clear,
the
a complaint
Atlantic-
is the start of a lawsuit, right? That is how you start a
Yeah.
civil lawsuit, is you file a complaint, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying it would be from his perspective because he's the one filed.
right.
That's
and
how
I like
every
that- I
civil
did
lawsuit
see that
starts,
they
is from the
included
perspective
a
of the
list
person
of just,
filing it,
like,
yeah.
his
You're trying to
accomplishments.
produce an argument for no reason. I'm just saying you're going to read the complaint, what Kash Patel is alleging, but oftentimes initial
I'm only
complaints.
correcting you because you corrected him when he said
you've been
lawsuit, and you said
sued
not a
quite a
lawsuit,
few
complaint.
times. I
I've
mean,
been
All
sued
right,
a
guys.
you've had
singular
some
time.
legal trouble.
I have been
You would
sued
understand
one time.
this.
Yes, but you corrected him when he said lawsuit. You said, well, just a complaint. It's the start of a lawsuit.
Because it's from his perspective is what I'm trying
sure.
to just emphasize.
I don't think there's a disagreement here. So let's just move on to the next subject.
Steven
here.
wants to nitpick and start a
because
fight
you
for no
nitpicked
reason.
him. You started a fight. You said it's not a lawsuit,
Hey,
it's a
listen,
complaint.
Steven,
I
I'm not
wasn't
upset
starting
about
fight.
it.
I was just
I'm
saying
really
it's
not
his
upset about it at all.
perspective.
It's totally okay. So we'll keep it moving here. Here's the headline from Mediaite. Chip Roy unveils, quote, Mamdani Act to bar and deport migrants over ideology. Here's the statement from Chip Roy's press office. Representative Roy introduces Mamdani Act to denaturalize and deport Marxists and Islamic fundamentalists. Roy told Breitbart News, by targeting the Red-Green Alliance, this legislation deploys new tools to fight back against the Marxist and Islamist advance that has devastated Europe and has now arrived on our doorstep, especially in my home state of Texas. This bill would amend the Immigration and Nationality Act to limit alien eligibility for admission and naturalization and enable deportation and denaturalization for any membership, affiliation, or advocacy of socialism, communist, Chinese communist, Marxist, or Islamic fundamentalist doctrines, and for other purposes. I mean, we can get into some more of the details, but this is, to me, absolutely insane. It's one thing to say we're going to sort who comes into the country on legal status, like a student visa or some sort of visa, or entering the country as an immigrant. We're going to, if you've been affiliated with the Communist Party, you can't come in. Okay, sure. I think that's fine. But what he's talking about is actually finding American citizens like Zohran Mamdani, the democratically elected mayor of New York City, and then because of their advocacy, stripping them of their citizenship and kicking them out of the country. That seems totally at odds with everything about free speech and freedom of religion, as far as, and trust me, I'm the furthest thing from a fan of Islamic fundamentalism, but you're essentially targeting and trying to denaturalize and deport people based on their opinions and advocacy. And yet this is coming from the free speech, freedom of religion crowd. Sean, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, historically, in terms of restrictions to enter and become citizens of the United States of America, this is not that unusual. Like, we ban Communist Party affiliated people from becoming citizens. I think that might actually still be the law as of right now. But once you get into denaturalization of people, and like the Supreme Court has many cases on this, it's a much more difficult process. And yeah, unfortunately, like after, like, unless you can prove some kind of fraud when they, actually, said that they weren't affiliated with this group or that group, like, yeah, you are cracking down on speech. So I'd have to look at the particulars of this, but taking that extra step to go after Mamdani, I remember this during the campaign. This is not something I would be in favor of unless, again, you're talking about fraud during the immigration process, like something that is, actually prosecutable. But yeah, I'm not sure I'm interested in this particular change.
Yeah, I think the question is, where would it stop? I mean, could a Democratic president just say that anyone who ever advocated for fascism is now going to be stripped of their citizenship? And they define fascism as support for Donald Trump. So any naturalized citizen who's supported Trump, then they're going to revoke and deport. I just find it strange that suddenly Republicans are so, obviously I acknowledged what you said. There is a historical precedent of some degree of ideological screening of who comes into the country. But when you're actually talking about stripping people of their citizenship, and this goes all the way up to President Trump himself, this is pretty drastic. Denaturalization cases are very, very rare for a reason, and they usually involve, like you said, some sort of fraud or serious crime, not just, advocacy for ideas we don't believe in. And then we talked about targeting Ken Griffin at his house. I mean, it's a lot more explicit to target the democratically elected mayor of New York City and say, we're going to revoke your citizenship because we don't like your advocacy. I mean, Steven, your thought?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm against this. This is just a natural extension of all the conservative rhetoric from Trump about deporting Ilhan Omar or denaturalizing citizens that he doesn't like. I'm pretty sure he said it about Ilhan Omar. I'm pretty sure he said it about Mamdani himself. But I mean, it's not a surprise at all.
I mean, but
That was during the campaign before they were bros, though.
Yeah, maybe he wouldn't do that now. But I guess, how much, we've seen so many issues now, right? Where it's like retaliating against press outlets. How do Republicans still with a straight face, Sean, like claim like we're the free speech guys, we're the First Amendment guy?
I mean, like a bunch of them didn't mean it. They just like thought it was advantageous. And you see this a lot from people that were outside of power. I mean, I hate to bring up Cenk's nephew again, but he did this recently where he was like, they're trying to deplatform me at Yale or whatever university he was speaking at. This guy is a blatant advocate for deplatforming people at universities and violence against them when they go and speak. So when they go and speak there. So there's a lot of people that are, you know, fair weather free speech advocates. And I think Chip Roy, I don't know him, obviously. I think he thinks he's doing something that he isn't doing, which is like restrictions on entry, which I'm fine with. Like you can add more ideological barriers on entry. But like once you're in the country and once you're an American citizen, you have the full protections of the First Amendment. And I'm sure somewhere in this bill, it's going to say, oh, this should not be construed to violate the First Amendment or something, even if huge portions of the bill violate the First Amendment, because that's often like a little trick that they do to get past that. But yeah, like denaturalizing somebody should be with an immigration related fraud or something of the sort, or maybe after they commit like a serious felony. Like I remember one of these, the Sudanese shooter in that university, like he had already been arrested for doing like a terrorist attack or planning a terrorist attack or something of the sort. Like that guy we could have denaturalized. Like once you're pledging allegiance to a foreign terrorist organization and you just became a citizen like 8 days ago or however long ago, like that guy we can consider denaturalizing. But like I'm more interested in like the actions that are affiliated with this rather than the ideology.
I find it strange because I came up in a time in Republican politics where it was all about freedom of religion, right? Being one of the things that was constantly stressed. And that was in the context of, you know, kind of a legal conflict between the rights of religious people and things like LGBT advocacy or birth control that was all being fought in the courts. And I tended to agree with conservatives or Republicans on a lot of those issues. But now suddenly it's like, and it's a strange position for me because, again, gay guy, not a big fan of radical Islam, but I do believe in freedom of religion, even for Muslim people, and I don't want anyone discriminated against just based on some collective assumption about what they believe that might not be true for any individual. It seems like Republicans are just like openly saying Muslims bad, deport all Muslims, you're a bad Muslim, like that. And that sounds like a caricature, and obviously that's not like all or most Republicans, but I could find you 10 Republican lawmakers making like openly discriminatory anti-Muslim statements just regularly all the time now. And that really would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. I mean, what's happening here? How is that okay, Sean?
Well, first of all, we want the bad Muslims in the United States of America. Like, not the evil ones, but the bad ones. The ones that don't really care about their religion. They are welcome in here. It's the good Muslims, the super serious ones.
That's like Zoran, and they still hate Zoran.
It's the super serious ones that we're a little worried about. The ones that take it a little too seriously. But yeah, I mean, look, obviously there is like, it's almost like a pushback against like how every time you hear about an Islamic terrorist attack, the trending thing is Islamophobia. So now people are like proactively going after Islam, which by the way, in a certain degree is a good thing. Like there is a component of Islam that is really horrible, and importing those values into the United States of America is not good. And it's something that we should avoid doing. But like, you know, it is technically a faith. So crossing that line and to the point where you're just like not trying to allow people's religious beliefs is like, you know, it's I don't know exactly how to phrase it, but yeah, you don't want to cross that threshold. And I mean, you have to pull up the specific quotes, but I'm certain I've seen some of these same ones that have like crossed the line into attacking a religion rather than, you know, attacking an ideology that's often associated with the religion.
Yeah. Stephen, your thought?
I don't. I mean, there are bad aspects to every religion. The idea that it's good to be a bad Muslim, but for some reason Christians are, I guess, good if you're just like purely Christian. This is just like the most thoughtless religious critique I've probably ever heard in my life, but it's not really that surprising coming from somebody that would support Donald Trump. I mean, you hear Trump and his ilk invoke religion for the Iran war or for whatever crazy stuff they're embarking on in the United States. I mean, people can weaponize religious stuff for good stuff. They can weaponize it for bad stuff. The idea that we want bad Muslims Muslims who aren't strict tenets to their faith, while you've got the president worshiping Jesus and praying to God as he's bombing other countries without the consent of Congress is, I just think, insanely wild to me.
Well, I don't think the president is particularly religious. And we have bad Christians in the United States of America. They're not doing terrorist attacks at nearly the per capita rates as Muslims are in this country. Like,
that's fine, but everybody sees that the terrorist attacks that Muslims do are bad, whereas the president of the United States is seeking to remove the convictions for the seditious conspiracy people who were attempting to perform a coup to keep him in office. So I mean, like, the two sides are not equal here. You can point to people like Hassan all you want. Hassan's not an elected official. He's not in office. The fact that that's your counterpoint to elected officials who are trying to propose laws to ban certain religions from our countries is just absolutely insane to me. We've got pardons for so many corrupt criminals. You wouldn't defend 90% of these. You would try to make excuses for it or just say you don't defend every single action that Trump does. So it's just a wild comparison to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a different person from Trump, but what you're doing right now is deflecting to January 6th in order to avoid talking about the problem of Islamic extremism, because my point about the per capita rates of terrorism is something that you can't address. So yeah, there is a unique problem with Islam. It's something that we have to examine, but I'm still not in favor of denaturalizing
terrorist
people.
Attacks in the United States. How since 9/11?
Since 9/11. So when we cut out the big outlier one, but Cato recently put out, they put this out all the time, where they're like, excluding 9/11 since 1975, it's like right-wing extremists are responsible for like 60% of the attacks, and it's like Muslims are responsible for like 22 to 24% of the attacks. I forget the exact number. They put this out all the time, but Muslims are 1% of the population. Like, so
what percentage
1%,
of Muslims are committing terrorist attacks, though? It sounds like it's
a smaller percentage than that.
It's
what
probably
percentage of any
sure,
group
but I mean, like, if we're talking about like 5 to 10 terrorist attacks over the course of a couple decades, is this what we're really going to structure our immigration policy on? Number one, and number two, the last I checked, nobody defends Muslim terrorist attacks in the United States. Everybody defends the types of terrorist attacks that MAGA is committing on the United States.
They do defend them. They
Which
deflect from them. That's why Islamophobia.
Which lawmakers defend them? Give me an
Islamophobia is
example.
always trending after the fact.
Give me an example of a lawmaker that's defended an Islamic terrorist attack in the past 20 years in the United States.
That's why Islamophobia is always trending after the fact.
You
they
have no
deflect
examples.
from them.
You have
Like,
no
they're not going
examples.
to directly say, they killed these
Meanwhile,
individuals.
Donald Trump can't even acknowledge that Minnesota lawmakers were murdered by a MAGA person, or the fact that a lot of the rhetoric around Charlie Kirk might have led to the guy who drove his USA flag-adorned truck into a Mormon church to start killing people, or the fact that every single person that commits a crime on behalf of Donald Trump somehow winds up with a pardon, or the fact that he's planning to pre-pardon the entire cabinet. He said anybody that's come within 200 feet of the Oval Office. And here you are saying, well, some people make Islamophobic claims. You have no answer to Democratic lawmakers that defend Islamic terrorist attacks because they don't exist. And even Zoran Mamdani, the guy you brought up earlier, literally condemned it 2 days after.
Yeah,
after
he called out the ideology of the victim, and that tweet implied that Jake Lang was somehow responsible for the attack that was on him.
And for you guys to speak in terms of implications,
it absolutely did.
Absolutely,
it absolutely did.
Guys, let's not relitigate the Zoran tweet. I think it's a fair point to say that Republicans have made excuses for certain forms of violence or openly pardoned
and they shouldn't
people.
do that.
I listen. I agree, but that's where we're at. So,
and again, like the right wing, the right wing attacks that Stephen is referring to, mostly January 6th, triggered like the largest FBI investigation in the nation's history. They hunted down people, even the ones that were just trespassing. And by the way, people absolutely did violence, and they should not have been pardoned or commuted. The ones that actually attacked police officers,
which
or
Trump did, unfortunately.
Yeah, which he did, but they should not have been pardoned or commuted. But like, this led to the largest manhunt in like the history of the FBI. When Antifa rioters rioted for hundreds of days during the Black Lives Matter riots, if you go look at the books, those people got settlements from all these major metropolitan areas.
No,
so they got
there were
paid.
10 to 15,000 arrests and everything. Not every single one got settlements from police departments. That's an outlandish
claim. A bunch of these groups got settlements. The city of Chicago, I just covered it, paid out $12 million in settlements to these groups.
That's fine, but one, that's not a federal. That's just the city of Chicago. It's not the FBI. It's not a federal thing. Number two, my guess is just like with the J6 defendants, when you look at the details of literally any of these cases, you guys are completely off on the details almost every single time. You're missing a huge part that would dramatically change how people would view the actual thing itself. And then number three, the FBI, you talk about how it was the largest investigation of all time. It was also the largest undoing of an investigation of all time. You had Kash Patel running in and firing every single federal employee that had been involved in any kind of investigation related to Donald Trump, even the Mar-a-Lago stuff. You had a mass pardon for everybody involved. You have pardons now for people that were convicted of seditious conspiracy for the same guy they were seditiously conspiring themselves for. And you had a payout for Ashley Babbitt when she was killed for trying to break through a window to go and seize these congressmen in the Capitol during an insurrection. So the idea that it was the largest FBI investigation of all time, when you had Donald Trump literally celebrating Mueller's death, a couple weeks ago, is insane to me. It's not even remotely close to the same on both sides on this.
So
Yeah, the reaction federally was much more extreme to January 6th.
But is that not valid to have a pretty strong federal reaction to
I'm just pointing out the standard. Like, if you want to investigate and hunt down these people that did violence, like, I don't think they should have been pardoned. I don't excuse them. So, but like, yeah, the idea that there wasn't a massive federal response to that is just not true.
Nobody said there wasn't.
I think we all agree there was a strong federal response.
But it was a strong federal attack. It was a strong attack on federal property. Antifa was not rioting against just federal buildings or a singular federal building. The J6 thing was.
They do attack a lot of federal buildings.
Sure, they do, and in those cases, they should be charged
the White House
and arrested
in May
for
of that year.
Sure.
The federal courthouse in Portland for like 100
I know.
days
Yeah,
straight,
you guys
but,
love to go to those things while making excuses for all the J6 people. It was only trespassing.
I'm not making an excuse. You're talking to somebody who's not here. I'm not making an excuse for them. I'm saying they should not have been pardoned.
Yeah, let me just check a couple quick. Did you say only trespassing? You said they were only trespassing, right?
I said
you said
no.
I said Brad, did you hear him say they were only trespassing? Sean seems to have
I didn't say they were only trespassing.
Wait, yeah, but did he?
I was differentiating. I was differentiating the people who were trespassing and didn't commit serious crimes versus the ones who did any act of violence.
Second,
you could rewind the tape.
Yeah, is trespassing a crime?
Yeah, it is a crime.
Oh, okay, cool. So then they probably should have been investigated and arrested if it was easy to find them. I agree.
I mean, again, but the scale of trespassing to like the actual violence and the people who should have been prosecuted is completely different.
What do you mean the scale up? What is a comparable attack on federal property?
The scale of trespassing to violent crimes? Like, what do you mean? One is like one of the lowest level misdemeanors or violations, and a violent crime is a violent crime, but usually classified as a felony.
Isn't that going to be the same in probably every single rioting event? Do you think the majority of rioters are also committing violent crime, or do you think the majority of them are also like breaking and entering or trespassing?
Well, the rioters are typically breaking and entering.
And trespassing,
the people doing the riot.
But the vast majority of the people are not
trespassing
committing
would be
violent
included
crimes,
in
right?
there. But there's obviously a distinction that you're trying to like breeze over between the people who are walking through the building or might have been directed through the building at certain points in time and didn't touch anything.
All the excuses. I'm just curious. Do you think that Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
He lost the 2020 election. Biden was president for 4 years. What are you talking about? Yeah. So there were people that were definitely directed, didn't touch anything, and they moved through the building and then they left.
The people that were directed were people that had already trespassed, that were being directed into other areas for police control. They weren't led into the building. They were guided in.
Move us along.
I'm not. First of all, I'm not. Again, he's trying to misconstrue. I'm not saying
you're the one that brought it up. You said led through the building.
I'm not saying there's a grand police.
It's not even relevant.
I'm not saying that there's a grand police conspiracy to like direct these people in there to frame them or anything of the sort. But there are things called strategic retreats where they try to funnel people into different ways in order to prevent a crowd. Like, I've been defending the Capitol Police on this for years. Like, you just haven't paid attention to that.
I'll say this, Stephen, you gotta give Sean a little credit. He is not a blind MAGA.
What?
culprit.
No, he's literally giving every pass possible and literally uttering every dog whistle he can. He literally said they were going after people who were just trespassing while Antifa was riding for hundreds of days. Trespassing is a crime, buddy. Sorry, it is, especially if you're doing it in conjunction with a ton of other people.
I never said that it wasn't.
Then why complain about it?
All right,
because
we're gonna move along, guys. Guys, we're gonna move along to the final topic here while we have time, which I'm sure you guys will totally agree on and won't be contentious at all. The latest on the political fallout from the ongoing Iran war. That's not a war, but it's also a war that we've been fighting for 47 years. Trump, here's the headline from Mediaite. Trump drops jaw-dropping attack on Democrats opposing Iran war. Traitors all. Of course, the penalty for being a traitor is, of course, death. Here's from his post on Truth Social. The Democrats are doing everything possible to hurt the very strong position we are in with respect to Iran. A little further down in the post here, he says, we're in it and it will be done right. And we won't let the weak and pathetic Democrats, traitors all, who for years have been talking about the dangers of Iran and that something has to be done, but now, since I'm the one doing it, belittle the accomplishments of our military in the Trump administration. This is, quote, being perfectly executed on the scale of Venezuela, just a bigger, more complex operation. I mean, so there's layers here, Sean, but I think surely you can agree that opposing Trump's war with Iran does not, in fact, make a Democrat or an independent, like myself, a traitor.
No, it doesn't make you a traitor. Treason is like the most overthrown around thing in the United States of America's political discourse. Treason's like the only crime defined in the Constitution. Like, you can't change the definition in the United States of America. Almost nothing meets that standard. Like, it's just not the case. So yeah, this is very much like the, oh, you're opposed to the war, you hate the troops kind of rhetoric. It's dumb, it's stupid, I don't like like it. Even the people, and I think there was like a Chris Murphy tweet that people were highlighting where he was like cheering Iranian boats making it through the blockade, and like even people who are like rooting for like Iran are not technically traitors in the United States of America. Like, it's
I also
weird.
think that tweet, while a mistake, was also meant ironically, potentially,
Right.
that he was saying like
Probably.
amazing, as in pointing out that it's going poorly, not as in he's actually rooting for the Iranian ships. But even that
That's
would
probably
not
a good
constitute
point.
treason.
Yeah, but even rooting for the enemy, even though that I find that to be reprehensible, is not treason. So
Right.
yeah, it's the most overblown thing. I'm never like interested in that all that much.
But as
So
for
go
this
ahead,
question
Stephen.
here, well, hang on. I want to get your thoughts, because rather than just have Stephen obviously agree with that, do you agree with Trump's assessment that this is being perfectly executed, and that where is your general thoughts on how this is going with Iran?
I mean, I don't know if it's being perfectly executed or not. I assume Trump likes to exaggerate and like he likes to sell people on things. Obviously, things are going bad. Like, things are going good. Like, that's the nature of a military operation. But the comparison to Venezuela, I mean, that was a quick and easy, like, relatively removal of Nicolas Maduro that cost no American lives. I believe we're up to 13 casualties, which is not considered a lot, but you don't have any ground troops there. So, like, maybe that is a lot. So I don't think this is like perfectly executed or anything of the sort. But I also don't think it's like an apocalyptic disaster or a quagmire right now. It's like hard to have a quagmire with like less than 2 months in my
Well,
opinion.
it threatens to become one, obviously.
It could become one, sure, but like anything could become something else.
Yeah, I just don't understand what the accomplishments here are, other than decimating like the Iranian Navy,
Their
and
leadership.
military. But okay, but we replaced the leadership with like the leadership's son, and with more hardline IRGC elements. So it's like we haven't replaced the regime. We haven't been able to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which was open at the start of the war. I don't believe the nuclear imminent threat notion, and they've been all over the map on that. It's just to me, this tweet feels like cope. Like if the war was actually going well. Also, he's talking about Democrats sabotaging the war. How? They literally have no power over anything. They can't do anything except make statements and vote symbolically. They don't control the House. They don't control the Senate. Like what? How are they sabotaging the war other than talking about it negatively? The tweet, Stephen, and maybe you probably agree with this, feels like him lashing out. And if it was actually going well, he wouldn't need to be schizo posting like this.
I just want to go back to how gross it was that Zoran took a day to condemn the Islamic extremists while Trump is talking about ending civilizations and
not
blaming Democrat.
relitigate?
Well, I mean, like, it's just like, this is like example 7 trillion of like Trump just saying an unbelievably reprehensible, insane thing that everybody on the conservative side essentially gives him a pass for. I mean, yeah, nothing speaks like
Well, Sean
strength.
did not give him a pass.
What?
Just criticized
No,
him.
it's basically none of this stuff is like moving the needle on how these people feel about Trump, broadly speaking. It's all just like epic and memes when Trump tweets it out. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
What about your thoughts on the war being perfectly executed?
I don't even know how you would define that. I'm sure there are a lot of his friends making money on Polymarket right now, and apparently the United States energy market can be insulated from the rest of the world. And since we make all of our own oil, it's not going to affect our gas prices at all or anything. So, whatever Trump says, he's got a better mind for econ than the rest of us do, I guess.
Yeah, okay, Sean, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's not true. Energy is traded on a global scale. Like, having local production doesn't exempt you unless you're subsidizing energy for your citizen. But even then, that costs you a significant amount of money in order to do that. But yeah, like, I don't think the war is going perfectly. Like, ideally, if you started taking out leadership, you would hope for an uprising of the population and they would do part of the work for you. But most of the Iranian people aren't armed, so like they can't really overwhelm the IRGC. You also have the Kurds that maybe they're tired of being used by the United States of America to fight and then not get a Kurdish state, so they don't seem to be all that interested in participating in I believe the west of Iran. Like, I think the plan at one point was to arm Kurdish fighters and send them into like at least Kurdish areas. So yeah, it's not going perfectly. Like, this is obviously an exaggeration at this
So
point in time.
you voted for Trump, right, Sean?
No, I don't vote.
Oh, you don't vote. Interesting.
He supported
Okay.
Trump though and wanted people to vote for Trump and was largely supporting.
I
Trump getting in
preferred Trump
office.
to
Yes.
Trump to Kamala Harris.
I mean, can you acknowledge though that Trump, whatever you think of the war, it's like objectively not what he campaigned, right? The amount of times that he said no new wars and has like explicitly built this ideology and movement as against Middle Eastern regime change wars. I feel like, and I've known people in Republican politics and in conservative intellectual world who've wanted a regime change war against Iran for a long time. And obviously I think the Iranian regime is evil, and we can discuss all of it. But I feel like the whiplash between between Trump, everything he built the MAGA movement around, and what he then immediately did upon taking office is just like been skipped over. Can you at least acknowledge that it's like quite the 180 degree?
Well, I actually don't agree. Like, he was very clear for over a decade and maybe even longer than that in private life that he didn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Like, you could say that you don't believe that they were going to develop it imminently, but if you made a list of countries with
Trump
60%,
the administration said that.
If you made a list, I'm saying you can say you don't believe that. That's fine. But if you made a list of countries with 60% enriched uranium that aren't nuclear powers, it would be one nation, the nation of Iran. So like, it's not like there is no nuclear threat. Like, they've been sabotaging this program, the United States.
I'm just curious. What did Trump mean when he said no new wars? What did that mean?
Well, I'm sure. Look, he had contradictory messaging for sure, but he was clear that he didn't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon.
So then he wasn't clear when he said no new wars, right?
Under oath that they weren't building a nuclear weapon after Trump became president again for the second time.
I mean, who testified? Tulsi Gabbard?
Yeah, the DNI, the director.
Okay, but like, they still have 60% enriched uranium. Like, it's not like, I don't know if they were about to build a bomb. Like, I know people are saying 1 week away, which I think is a stupid thing to say. It's too evocative of Iraq and weapons of mass destruction. I mean, you might as well throw ties to Al Qaeda in there. Most people don't know the Shia-Sunni split. I'm sure you could get away with that. But like, yeah, they shouldn't have advocated on that. But they do have 60% enriched uranium.
They also
this
told
is
us
far
that it had
beyond
all been destroyed in the initial bombing, right? The White House.
They shouldn't have said that. That was not up. Well, it was that they devastated
messaging.
It was that they
no.
First of all, they said that they devastated their nuclear sites, but it was reported that their uranium was moved prior to the U.S. and Israel bombing those sites. I think that was in June or July.
I have it pulled up here actually, and they said that they were set back decades, and this was, let me see if the date is on this, June 25th, 2025, and then less than a year later, he's launching a war about a supposed imminent threat. So either the first time he was blatant, like lying or somehow wrong, which is a massive catastrophe for the administration, or it's not actually an imminent nuclear threat that would justify some kind of launching a war.
Like, again, so first of all, him lying about the scale of the attack and its success last year, 100% very likely to happen. But also, it's not that, I don't think they were a week away from a nuclear bomb or anything of the sort. But the point is, they do have 60% enriched uranium. This is far above civilian grade. And the idea that you wait for a hostile foreign power to develop a nuke, or to be like right a day away from developing a nuke before you take action, to me is absurd. I mean, everything that's happening right now with the closing of the Strait of Hormuz and the pressure on the world economy, Iran would be able to do plus a nuclear weapon. Like, we don't want another North Korean style regime in a much more crucial part of the world. So this is like what they're trying to avoid.
All right, Stephen, your thoughts?
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't have pulled out of the Iranian nuclear deal then when Trump came into office, that he tore up because Obama made it and he was mad about it.
Let Stephen make his point.
Sure.
Well, no, I mean, like, that's it. I mean, like, this is supposed to be the president who negotiates new deals. He hasn't negotiated anything. We're, looking for negotiations with Iran right now. That sounds like it's going to put them in a better position than before the war. We've got a president who didn't plan for anything related to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, which is unbelievable. We've got a president who's alienated himself from all of his allies for the entirety of this presidency, and now he's surprised that nobody wants to help him clean up the mess that he created for literally no reason in Iran. We've got a president who, put a pin in the timeline right now. Sean is defending everything the U.S. is doing right now, claiming that the United States and Trump lied about the Iranian weapons being destroyed, I guess, a year ago. Well, what if they're lying right now when we go to war again, a year after today, saying that everything he said today was actually a lie, and in a year he's going to clean up the lies that he made last time? Like, these are worse and more blatant. Like, at least Bush and Cheney had the wherewithal to lie to the American public by, creating their little special office and trying to fabricate this whole idea to go to war with Iraq, as opposed to Trump, who just makes up whatever lie comes to his mind, every single day, and doesn't even include the rest of the administration up in his lies. So no, I like this idea of that Trump can say whatever and do no wrong, and it's all just memes and trolls, and maybe he's lying today, but tomorrow it won't be, but tomorrow will be a lie when the next day comes. It's just deeply unserious to me.
All right, guys, we are going to leave it there. Thank you both so much for your time. Really appreciate the conversation. All right, if you just want to sit tight till we're all uploaded. Oh, Stephen, you might have
there.
Well,
how dare you?
You want to go for more than an hour? I already feel bad taking up an hour of your day, but so yeah, Sean, you're good. Your files are all uploaded. This is going to go out Wednesday night, so I'll follow up with you via text or email with more details.
Right.
And then Stephen, you might just want to leave this open in the background because it's taking forever to upload again.
Yeah, I see.
That might be because you're streaming.
Sure.
I think
His file's corrupted.
Yeah.
no,
it's
they're
gone.
not corrupted. I hope not. Gosh.
It's not. I say it'll
He's
get there.
corrupted.
True.
Just him, yeah. See, I bet that you guys would actually be really good buddies if we were just not on camera and there was no chat egging anybody on.
I've met Steven in person many times.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you guys have done a bunch of debates over.
Yeah.
But I'm not fighting him in the hotel or anything of the sort. But like he genuinely disagrees with me. Like that's fine.
That's fine. That's the point. I appreciate it, and I like doing these. I think the panels are more productive one-on-one than with like 6 people, the Piers style. So I'm trying to go for 2 people can actually speak to each other and challenge each other. Because like with cable news, you get these 3-minute segments where you both say your opinion and there's no actual engagement, and usually they're the same opinion also. And then with the like chaos panel clown cars, it just ends up people Cenk Uygur screaming, and then somebody else yelling anti-Semite, and then like it just devolves into utter chaos. So
how many times can Cenk work Israel into a sentence on every topic? Is the
well, I think that's in fairness. I think that's the topic of most of the panels with Piers. So
well, there's a hilariousness to Piers Morgan where he brings people on who like scream about this topic or that topic, and then he acts all shocked when they do that. Like he brought on a girl that's like quite literally famous for saying the N-word just so he could say you're disgusting and reprehensible for saying this, and then he asked her to say it on the same panel. Like, you know,
that was kind of diabolical though. That was a hilarious clip. And then when Mark Lamont, I did find it interesting when Mark Lamont Hill was like, how dare you ask her to utter that word in the same Zoom call as me? I mean, but no, I agree.
Mark Lamont Hill kind of made that clip like that went in a sideways direction for an entertaining clip that I wasn't expect. So I guess maybe bad example. That's
the thing. Like I can critique the Piers thing, but do I watch almost every episode? Yeah, I do.
That's the model, right?
I don't watch almost every episode, but yeah, obviously his numbers, like it works. Like what he's doing works. It's not but it is funny to watch him morally, like he's done this 800 times. He'll morally grandstand about the guests that he brings on when he brought them on to do that thing. Like if Cenk didn't scream about Israel and yell at people, like he would be boring and he wouldn't bring him on. Like that's the entire point.
All right, guys. We can talk again soon. I'm gonna hop off. Steven, if you just want to leave this open in the background until it's fully uploaded.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay.
All right, cool. Thank you. Bye.
All right, thanks for having me. Bye, Steven.
See you later. Jesus. Contradictory message. Grimes reveals to Interview Mag her new album, Psy Opera, will be released this year. She says she didn't use any generative AI in its creation. Is that going to be the new thing that we have to say? Piers Morgan, shocked by N-word. Uh-oh. I think we watched this a long time ago, right?
Would you use the N-word out of interest?
Yes.
You would?
I do, quite frequently.
You use the N-word quite frequently. Well, why? Other than the fact you're a despicable racist. Are you?
Some would say I am. I guess according to the ADL, I'm a white supremacist. I'm a neo-Nazi.
Yeah, well, if you use the N-word repeatedly, you are a racist then, are you?
Sure, I'll embrace that. They're trying to get her children taken away. So you were saying Carmelo Anthony, it doesn't matter. That's a different
Sorry, but just to be
thing.
clear, you just said to me you use the N-word regularly. In what context? Do you use it with black people?
Yes, if it's appropriate.
When would it be appropriate to use the N-word? When would it be appropriate?
Jesus.
Anytime I feel like it.
So you're an unashamed racist.
Correct.
Well, do you understand that makes you a despicable human being?
I guess so.
You see no problem with a woman shrieking the N-word repeatedly because you yourself are a despicable racist. And you've just proudly admitted that with a smug grin on your face, which is pretty horrifying, actually, for most people to have to watch. And shame on you. You're entitled to do it, and I'm entitled to call you despicable.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they were brought here technically.
My God, do you understand how dumb you sound?
This is stupid. This is stupid and racist, and at some point we have to ask ourselves, do we want to reward this kind of disgusting behavior by platforming it?
I don't disagree, Mark. Listen, I didn't know she was going to say that. I don't disagree with you.
No. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't think you knew ahead of time. I'm saying at this moment, someone who's saying it technically black people were no, technically Africans were stolen, enslaved, and they built this country. And the idea that you can justify calling a baby the N-word by saying that white people are losing the country is absurd. It's morally bankrupt, and it's honestly besides the point.
Would you use the N-word?
Wait, okay. I don't know why I was like this particular short. Okay. Do you think David is going to be unbanned before me, guys?